Hello and welcome to Whole and Healthy Cooking with Chef Val. Hi, I'm Chef Valerie Wilson. I have been teaching healthy, whole foods cooking classes since 1997. All my recipes are vegan, they're based in macrobiotic principles, and they're healthy, and they're delicious, and they're great for you. At any time, if you want more information about what I have to offer, please go to my website, macroval.com. I teach cooking classes on a regular basis. I offer lifestyle counseling where I can help you overcome any health challenges you might have using food. Today, I wanted to teach you how to cook the whole grain millet and the whole grain kasha together. So I actually started it before the video so it'll be done so I can show you what it looks like. As a matter of fact, it's done. It's been on the stove. So I'm going to turn the heat off. And I'm going to take the pot off of the heat and let the pot set. Now, when I cook my whole grains, I usually like to take them off the heat and let them sit for about 5 minutes before I even work with them or do anything with them. Because the residual heat that's still in the pot, they will continue to cook for a few more minutes. So sometimes when we're cooking, we cook our whole grains separately. We cook a pot of millet, we cook a pot of brown rice, a pot of kasha, like separate. But then sometimes when we're cooking, we want to cook the whole grains together. And sometimes that can be challenging because certain whole grains cook for a longer amount of time and certain whole grains cook for a shorter amount. Now, millet, the whole grain millet, usually cooks about 20-25 minutes. And the whole grain kasha, depending on if you get toasted kasha or not. Toasted kasha cooks up quicker, and I am using a toasted kasha today, so I'm going to talk more about that. But kasha is a very tricky whole grain to cook because it likes to absorb like all this water. And sometimes when I combine millet and kasha together, it takes a little longer to cook because the kasha has a tendency to absorb all the water and take all the water away from the whole grain millet. And the whole grain millet needs more water too. So I end up adding quite a bit more water than if I was to just cook the millet by itself. So when you're going to cook millet and kasha together, just work with it. And of course, everybody's stove is different and everybody has, different levels of temperature on your stove. So you have to work with that also. So first of all, let me tell you about the whole grains. This is the whole grain kasha, or what's called buckwheat. Although technically the whole grain is kasha, and once you grind it up, it becomes buckwheat flour. But it's the same thing. This is what it looks like before it's cooked. 100% gluten-free, even though they call it buckwheat. It's not in the wheat family. I don't know why they do that. Kind of confusing. This is the signature whole grain of wintertime. This will help keep your body warm. Contains almost the whole range of B vitamins in kasha. I have a video all about kasha that tells you even more health benefits about it. I love the rich, earthy flavor of kasha. Kasha is one of my favorite whole grains, and I think it's not used enough. It gets, it kind of ignored, which is a shame. This is the whole grain millet. Okay. This one is the little yellow round balls. A lot of times they show it in bird feed, but we don't want to serve this to the birds. We want to eat it ourselves. This is the whole grain that's exceptionally high in iron, high in calcium. It is the easiest whole grain to digest. So if I'm ever working with a client with digestive issues, millet's a really good one because it's soft. It's the easiest to digest. So millet has the texture of becoming soft and creamy once it's cooked. Kasha becomes soft and creamy once it's cooked. So you can see why cooking these two together would be a good idea. And so the recipe. I started with 1/2 cup of millet and 1/4 cup of Kasha. I wanted a little more millet in the dish than Kasha. Now you could do a 1-to-1 ratio where you do 1/2 cup of millet, 1/2 cup of Kasha. You could do that too. This is just what I decided to do today. Now the amount of water that I put in there was 2.5 cups. So again, you're going to want to add extra water, especially when you're cooking Kasha, because Kasha just absorbs all that water. So we started with 1/2 cup of millet, 1/4 cup of Kasha. That's 3/4 cups of whole grain. Now normally you just double that, and that's the water amount. That would be 1.5 cups, right, of water. Well, I ended up adding 2.5 cups of water. So that's a whole nother cup, but that's the way that it worked out. And when you cook whole grains, I go through this in a lot of my videos, and if you ever attend a cooking class, of course, I teach you the basics, but you put the whole grains in the pot, and then you put the water in the pot. You put it on a high temperature, and you bring it to a boil. By boiling the whole grains, and you don't need to boil them for a long time, just boil them for a minute. The boiling water starts to open up the kernel of the whole grain and makes it more digestible for you. So after it's at an open boil, then you put a lid on it and you put it at the lowest possible temperature. I always recommend that you use one of these flame tamers or flame diffuser. This is metal, this is wood, okay? This sits on your stove. The fire and the heat is underneath it. The pot goes on top. This evenly disperses the heat so that you don't accidentally scorch your whole grains. I use this all the time. This is invaluable, okay? So you probably might want to do like a search or something. You can find them on the internet. It's called a flame tamer or a flame diffuser. I like the one that's metal, and then the handle is wooden. And I've been using these for like 30 years, and I'm still using them. So they last a long time. So you have the lid on it, and you've put your whole grains in the back, and they're on the flame tamer. Now, millet usually cooks for about 25 minutes, and Kasha usually cooks for 15 minutes. But again, you've added more water, and you're combining the two grains together. So I cook this for 35 minutes. Okay, 35 minutes. Now, during that 35 minutes of cooking time, I did check the whole grains because sometimes the water might get evaporated quicker, you know. So you just lift the lid up and you just very gently move the whole grain aside and make sure that there's still water in there. Don't mix it, okay? You don't need to mix whole grains as they're cooking. I just move the whole grain aside just to see if there's water in the bottom and that the whole grains are still cooking. So after 35 minutes, this is what we have. So the whole grain millet has broken. They're not little balls anymore. Woo, the camera started to get steamed up because I put the hot grain next to it. So the millet has busted open. It's nice and creamy. The Kasha has busted open. It's nice and creamy. This is what it looks like. Okay. It's beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. It has a great creamy texture. This makes excellent casseroles. You could mix it with some vegetables and then put a sauce on it and bake it in the oven. This also makes an excellent breakfast porridge. You could take some of this delicious grains right now and you could put your favorite non-dairy beverage on there, you know, whether it's soy or almond or rice or whatever, and kind of heat it up with some cinnamon. Now, I'm not a fan of fruit and grains because in your digestive tract, they don't like each other. So I kind of stay away from that, but I love cinnamon and I love some type of non-dairy beverage. I might even put some fresh ginger juice in there. That would be amazing. So it could be used for a breakfast. I'm going to steam some vegetables and mix this with the vegetables and create a casserole is what I'm going to do because I made this video in the middle of wintertime and we eat casseroles to keep the body warm in the wintertime. Okay. All right. So that is how you cook millet and Kasha together. I hope you get an opportunity to cook them together. So thank you so much for watching. And if you could share the video, that would be great. Unless the video is on my private Patreon page, then just tell a friend about how great the video is, okay? My YouTube channel is Chef Valerie Wilson. If you have not subscribed to that yet, please subscribe to that. Macroval.com is my website. I have recipes of the month. I have articles. I have a radio show. I have a Substack blog called I Am the Creator of My Health. All kinds of ways that you can learn about healthy whole foods from me. So thank you so much. Enjoy your millet. Enjoy your kasha. Remember, your journey to eating healthy begins with one small step. Let's make that small step the whole grain millet and kasha cooked together. Oh, let me show it to you one more time. So here it is. It's yummy. Spatula's kind of weird.